Yeah, the sound hole, when we do a really big guitar, like a Tony Rice Professional, we're doing a large sound hole to tame that big bass and enhance mid-range and treble. When we're doing a parlor or a small guitar like an OM, we shrink the sound hole to boost the bass. It's really counterintuitive, but that's the physics of it. If anybody wants to prove that to themselves, take a 3x5 card and place it next to your sound hole, tap behind the bridge and slide it over there. The more you close it, the lower the frequency is. The more you open it up, the higher. Huh. Cool, huh? People argue to the death on that, but you can show them.
Richard, so about the weight of the headstock, too, to finish up on that.
Yeah.
Most of your guitars have fairly light tuners, right? Like you could add mass to the headstock with heavier tuners. Do you use the tuners used because of the quality of the tuner, or is it because of the weight and the way that it sounds?
Let's look at this. This is a finger-style guitar, and you can see it has much heavier gears on it. Mm-hmm. It actually has more mass in the peg head, and that's intentional. What this guitar is for fingerstyle is, if you think about it, when you play fingerstyle, you're putting less energy in the strings with fingernails instead of a pick. You're oftentimes doing an open tuning, which slacks some of the strings. That's less energy. So in combination, those would give the guitar be quieter with it. And some of the things we do, including adding this mass to the neck, compensate and give it better projection. So neat way to do those things. I'm not looking at this side of the room. I'm sorry. You first, and I'll go over there.
Yes. Just a quick, sort of on those lines, a single O size guitar versus,
Yeah.
say, a double O. Is there a way to make a single O sound bigger, more like a double O?
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah, we do that. We do it vice versa. We do a single O model. Catfish Keith is a good friend and a great performer, and we make a style for him, and it's a single O, but he's a monster, you know, and he wants big volume. So as you get to the smaller body guitars, the less airspace will be less volume. But there's other ways to get more airspace. That's not, and you keep the same footprint, but it's deeper front to back. Now you can overdo that and it gets pretty vacuous and sounding, but to a degree that will increase it and give it the volume of a double O. We do that with our H13 too, to get a small body guitar. Because when we first made that, nobody would buy anything but a dreadnought, and we had to pull something off to make it louder, and that was one of the ways we did it. Yeah, go over there.
Yeah, I wanted to just, one of the guitars that you make that I'm just so enamored with is the Cowboy Singer.
Oh, yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit about the work that you did with Don Edwards and how you guys work together, and any anecdotes you have about that process.
Thank you. Don Edwards just passed away a week or so ago, and I'm having a real hard time writing a eulogy for him, because it's not just an acknowledgement of a celebrity passing away. It's a huge loss for me, and I got to take some quiet time off woodshed a little bit on this. So forgive me, this is a personal one. But Don represents very much what we do with artists. Don came to us because he wanted a particular thing in an instrument. He wanted something to look cowboy, right? You know, and that's not a dreadnought, it's not an OM. Both dreadnoughts and OMs were, the original ones, the sides came up and joined to the 12th fret. And then to get more frets, they just squash the sides down to give you 2 more frets, and they're boxy. They don't look like a cowboy guitar, right? So first, body shape, it had to look right, and then tonally, it had to have what he wanted for his stuff, which is not only vocal accompaniment. Anybody that doesn't know Don's work, he was the real thing. You know, he did trail songs, old traditional cowboy stuff, not popular country western, but real stories that came from that lifestyle. And so he needed a tone, he needed cosmetics, he needed a tone, for that really worked. And working together was an absolute delight because he's pretty sophisticated, he knew exactly what he wanted to talk about. We had a lot of commonality in listening to old 78s of not just like cowboy songs, but old blues, swing, and things like that. So we really could talk about the tone he was looking for and the aesthetic that it was. So it was one that was truly a product of it was all from the heart, from what he wanted to do, what I knew we could do, and sometimes where we had to make compromises in that. And I'm not being really articulate about this, but, it's like working with James. This is like you get to sit down with a friend, have some beer talk, and do something that you both fall in love with. That's what makes my life good, is working with people like Don. And if you haven't heard him so much the real thing. He does a song, it's The Last Coyote. And if anybody's been to a NAMM show, it's a big giant trade organization with this cacophony of drums, noise, awesome stuff, people in the aisles going up and down, up and down. And Don was in the corner of our booth, and he began playing this song about the last coyote, last coyote ever. And in it, he does a little yip yip coyote sound. It's a heart-rending story. So he can't be heard. It's just totally noisy. And he starts playing this song, and this whole river of people start slowing down, and then they start kneeling and sitting down, and the whole place just stops to listen to play that song. And when he was done, I'm going to say there was probably another 15 seconds of just silence before people walked on. That's the power he had in what he did. So go listen to him.
Yeah, if I could put in a quick plug too,
Sure.
I really look forward to reading your eulogy that you write for Don Edwards. He did just pass away a week ago. If anyone here hasn't read Richard's eulogy for Tony Rice, another great example of a musician who is, not just a towering figure in the world of music, but also just a friend of Richard who worked together on guitars. And that eulogy is it's personal, and the music history and the depth of it is it's really an extraordinary glimpse into not just the relationship between Richard and Tony, but just about music that was going on in the 70s and the 80s. And you should definitely look that up and read it.
Thanks. Whew. It's I'm the
You've
luckiest.
known some amazing people, Richard.
Yeah.
And you've
Well,
worked with them.
I'm the luckiest guy in the world, and let me tell you why. What we do makes people happy, and people come to us and they're happy. The process makes them happy, and they leave happy. So I finally realized we're guitar makers, but we're in the service business. What we do is we manage people's expectations, and that's before, during, and after the guitar is made. And if we treat people respectfully and do it right, they can't wait to do it again. That's really the nature of our business.
If I can make a request?
Please.
Before we wrap up, could we listen to James play a little more?
You bet we can. Anybody have a burning question?
No, I'm
to leave
happy to. I can
behind?
play another guitar. I was
Okay.
wondering if you wanted to get family to play with me. But I thought Ben and I were playing together real beautifully earlier. You want to play a song
Ha!
with me, Ben?
You're stuck now.
Did he hide? Let me try a different guitar.
All right.
I offered to talk to you guys about guitar making individually, building, playing, custom stuff. And it may take me a little while to get back, but I will. And I'll let you know if for any reason I don't have the bandwidth or it's not my expertise. But other than that, I can't wait to talk to you next. And come visit. COVID allows us to do tours again. I'll show you how to make your own guitar.
Yeah, grab that guitar you were playing. Yeah, we can just pull in one of these vocal mics. This is an amazing triplo. It's deep, is that right, Larry?
Yeah.
We were playing it earlier. That's Adirondack top, and then the back is almost like you want to. There are these guitars where you almost feel like you should hold it backwards so people can see. I mean, look at wow.
Thanks, man.
That's like, what do you wear to match this guitar?
Pretty much see.
What's on the back and sides of this?
Koa, very flamey Koa. Yeah,
It's got a little color on it too to make it look kind of peachy.
Oh, okay, that's not the natural color
Yeah.
of the color. Yeah, so Ben, you should pull this microphone down to aim it at your guitar. Let's get rid of the stand here. Show you off. I just met Ben about an hour ago, and we barely know each other's names, but we started playing music together, and I thought it sounded really great. And music is just an amazing way to meet somebody. Same thing happened to me with another Santa Cruz artist, Lisa Liu, who's now a really good friend of mine. I had no idea who she was, and I didn't even know that she was your guest at the NAMM show. There was just this woman hanging around in the Santa Cruz booth, and she's like, hi, I'm Lucy, I'm James, I'm fine. And she goes, hey, you want to play a tune? And we just sat there for 45 minutes playing tunes, and now we're good friends, and we're talking about making a record together and stuff. And so music is the way that the wonderful way to meet people. But yeah, Ben, get up close to that microphone and play. Do you want to do the Elvis tune? I thought that was really nice.
Sure, yeah.
Or any of the other ones you want to do.
Yeah, you have to bear with me. I'm definitely going to mess up, and I got a little bit of stage fright, but...
Not at all. It's going to be great. Yeah. Oh, you want to do that one? That's fine. That's fine. Oh, yeah, that's kind. Yeah, that's fine. I thought the I Can't Help Falling in Love with You, I thought was so nice.
Oh, sure.
I thought that was really nice. Fly Me to the Moon is good, too.
Easier to play this one.
Okay. So keep going. This is what happens when you play well, let's finish it up. You play an unfamiliar guitar and you're a little bit up in this. So I talk to actually students about this all the time, about how tightly you should hold a pick, and I always tell them you should hold it so loosely that you occasionally drop it. And so I'm following my own advice. Finish the song. 2, 3. And I'm going to try. Okay.
Sure, your tuning is much more accurate than mine is.
No, all good. Very nice. So you can immediately hear how these two guitars sound different. So Richard, to me, this one has more of that kind of projecting that you were talking about, and this one has more of that airiness. Would there be a reason in the build for that?
Well, the peg heads have different weights by design, and also the bridges, that has more mass than this one, and both of those contribute to projection in this one, and more open area ambience in this one. So it's intentional.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's funny, most guitars, the peg head is the logo, is the trademark, you know? You identify it by that. And oftentimes people go, why do you mess that up by making so many different peg heads? Now you know.
Okay, yeah. Well, and I love the idea of, so this one doesn't have a logo on it. Is that true of all the FS models?
Yes, it is. When we did this guitar, it was in response to, John Fahey had moved on, Will Ackerman and Wyndham Hill, the whole open tuning thing, Daniel Hecht, Robbie Basho, and we wanted to come up with a guitar, because Daniel Hedges was playing a dreadnought, right? And it was really too bassy, so we wanted a guitar that not only had that sound, but also had the right ethos, that it looked really organic and right.
Yeah,
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
yeah.
This, if I may say so, this guitar and the design inspired a lot of contemporary builders in their design proportions for the guitar.
And so, and that's Indian rosewood, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, a little denser version of it.
Yeah, and you can even feel it. The neck,
Uh-huh.
this guitar just feels a little more massive than this one, this one is kind of like a feather. So it may not be fragile, but it sure has that sort of delicate feel. This one feels, it's more substantial up in the neck, and you can feel that in the way that the notes come out of it.
Yeah, wood binding is a small but instrumental part of that too.
Oh, the wood binding. It affects the sound.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. Here's a little bit of ephemera. On the violin, there's that little black line that run around the edge. It's not there to be decorative. What it does is it breaks the connection between the top and the sides. It's not wood, it's fiber. It's ground up wood that's been reconstituted, so it's physically inert. It won't conduct vibration, so it works like a gasket, and it keeps the vibration in the top radiating from the bridge, going to the edge, and coming back to pump the guitar top more, or violin top more, than transferring to the sides and back, where the player hear the volume, and who cares? We want the violin to go out front. So that's what the combination of those bindings are. And then with the dense resonant, the purflings, dense resonant binding, we get the combination that enhances projection on that as well.
Interesting. So is this binding different than the binding on my guitar then?
No, yours is the same, but yours is in a herringbone configuration, but it's the same material.
I see, same material.
Different
I
colors,
see.
yeah. And again, it all comes from the violin tradition to do that. Plastic doesn't do us any favors. Yeah.
Is plastic good anywhere on a guitar?
Well, it costs less money, it's easier to use, and if you break it, you always got another one. Right. Not in our repertoire, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More questions?
Does the cutaway affect the volume or the tone much?
Here's the physics, is if you reduce airspace, remember we're talking about the difference between a double O and a single O, the reduced airspace will reduce the volume, and it will bring the bass down in the EQ. A larger airspace will increase the bass volume in the EQ and give overall more volume. So you could extrapolate and say if you took the cutaway out, that you would reduce the bass and quiet the guitar, but there's ways to overcome that. You can increase the airspace by making the body a little bit deeper with it. Also, you'll notice we do a rounded cutaway and not a pointy cutaway. And this is another accumulative thing. The air capacity in there, in the rounded cutaway, we're losing the airspace in that negative space that's cut out. But in the pointing cutaway, it's a blind corner, and you double the amount of air that you're taking out of it. So that, what's called a Venetian cutaway versus the pointy Florentine is technically superior to do. And again, we're talking about the cumulative effect of everything we do in the guitar. So if you had a guitar with a pointed versus a round, how much difference could you hear? There would be a difference, but would your ear pick it up? That's in case anybody wants to argue that with me. I've covered myself nicely. That sounded good, thank you.
Oh, thanks for playing with me, Ben. Wasn't that great? Yeah, Ben's in the family here, so they've got a lot of music and good people. Yes, please.
There's a question over here.
Well, I've heard people talk about the consistency of tusk material versus bone, because bone is supposedly inconsistent if you don't get the right bone. So how do you know you get the right bone? And isn't bone a superior material to tusk in the first place?
Excellent question, and you're right, consistency. So we use bone. Ivory's unconscionable to use, and it's actually a little too soft for our purposes. And not all bone works. We use a bone that comes from oxen, that are used in, they use them and they use them up, so it's kind of a sustainable process. And we buy from a supplier that grades it for us for density and absence of porosity in it, because not only does the density conduct more uniformly if we pick it right, but the porosity can mess with piezoelectric pickups and not transfer the stuff right. So we're using a quality of bone that works for us. Bone in general would have, you're right, it'd have a lot of varieties, and something like tusk or a man-made material that approximate that would be more consistent. And I'll tell you frankly, the reason we use the natural materials is because that's consistent with both our ethos and the combination of everything else in the guitar. We don't have to explain why we're using a material. And there's a lot of brands, we've even experimented with making our own, and it just like, maybe it's different, but we haven't had a need to change it. Do you own Tusk? Sorry.
No, I like bone, but I make my own saddles, so
That's great,
I'm
yeah.
not sure where to get the blanks.
Yeah. I'm happy to, there's another thing I'm open source about is suppliers. We buy from David Warther, Warther, and he's a 5th generation Swiss carver. His family's made maritime models out of ivory and stuff like that for the last couple hundred years. Good guy. You'll find him online.
Ivory versus bone. I tried
Bone.
ivory and thought it was harsh sounding.
Yeah, it's here's another thing. Ivory, bone, even fossilized has a real big degree of you'd call it Mohs, not durometer, but Mohs is hardness, and it varies within the species itself. But fossilization can go from everything from a little bit fossilized to agatized like stone. So just because it's fossil doesn't mean it's going to sound one way. There's a whole scale in there too. Good observation.
You had a question? Yes.
Yes, so I want to know about fret wire, how a certain material affects the tone.
Sure. Fret, as you know, you can do jumbo frets or skinny frets or whatever. What's more important is the, again, MOHLS, the hardness of it will affect the tone. I just wrote this answer for somebody. Think of this, you play the open string, it's the nut and the saddle that are conducting the vibration into the guitar. Once you fret, you eliminate the nut, and now it's the fret and the saddle transferring the vibration. So in general, any of those substances, nut, saddle, or frets, that is harder will give more brightness and clarity to the sound of the guitar. Not better or worse, just different. And again, you probably want to add that with several other factors to really get a dramatic difference. What really we're looking for in fret wire, and we came up with our own alloy, is it has to be hard enough that the strings don't wear it, because it's expensive to refret a guitar. Even though frets are like a tire on a car, you know, they will wear out. That it's better to have the strings wear from the fret than the fret wear from the strings, so you want that balance. Also, you want it hard enough that it won't drastically temper when you hammer on it. Tempers like when you take metal and you heat it up and you cool it quickly, it makes it harder, but also working it does. So filing it, crowning it, and so forth, you can actually make it hard. And if it gets too hard, it gets too springy, and the ends will pop up. So there's a lot to consider in that.
All right, I think we need to wrap things up. Oh, I'm sorry, one more question.
And we know everything. Oh,
How do you get the fret sizes proper, and how long did it take you to get the fret sizes proper?
let's see, we're 47, about 46 years.
Don't buy this used one. No, that's not true.
No, we had a lot of difficulty with that, especially, as I said, with the tempering where the fret ends would pop up. And it was a combination of learning how to match the slot accurately to the tang. This gets a little bit funny, but if you look at the fret and cross section, it's like a little mushroom. And that stem has these little barbs on it. And if made right, they're like little knives. They're really clean and clear. And the idea is to tap the fret in over bent, and then as you press it down, those barbs go in and move sideways, and they lock the fret in, right? So there's the alloy, the precision of manufacture, and the technique that you put it in. And we've got it down pretty well now, right? We don't mess with it too much. So I'm always, if I see a label change on a package, I get suspicious. I want to find, just like finish, one thing can really affect it all. And there's more to that. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Thanks, everybody. You made me happy. I like that. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Debbie.
A big thank you, please, for Mr. Richard Hoover and Mr. James Nash and Ben Libben. And to all of you folks for coming today.